categories, which is why LSM actually looks negative, and those counts are pushing to the other categories as they're being combined with a coupon or whatnot. So same-store sales versus prior year were positive 2%. The result is a positive guest count of 1.9% and a nearly flat PPA comp of 0.1%. Bonus cards themselves, like from the complimentary guests, were not counted as guests in the prior year, and this drove a 2.4% in the guest comp. So what that tells me is that we were actually over prior year. If you're not looking at those complimentary guests, we were minus 0.4%. Positive guest comp to prior year was driven by benefits in all categories. Again, those comps are coming in across all categories, except Club Veg. We did not see a benefit there. So full pay benefit of 1.7%, senior benefit of 1.3%, print benefit of 0.7, and LSM other benefit of 0.5, offset by negative impact in Club Veg of minus 2.3%. So jumping to the next slide, guest counts were pretty equally mixed across the markets. We had 9 markets that were positive and 9 that were negative to budget. Period 1 Club Veg was negative in all markets except for Houston, which was up 5 guests per day. LSM Other was negative in all markets except Albuquerque and Tucson, which were both up 3 guests per day. Full pay was positive in nearly all markets. Down in Fresno, about 11 guests per day, and down in Orlando, 3 guests per day, down in Tucson, 2 guests per day, and down in West Florida, 4 guests per day. Senior guests were positive in nearly all markets, except we were down in Albuquerque, 4 guests per day, down in Houston, 12 guests per day, and down in Tampa, 7 guests per day. One thing to note on the senior guests is that we noticed that year over year, we're actually rolling over time periods where we didn't have the senior deal running over the weekend in many of these markets. So when we look at year over year counts, we are seeing some positive benefit there. Print was positive in most markets, but we're down in Colorado, 15 guests per day, LA, 10 guests per day, and down in Orange County, 2 guests per day, as well as in lower performing markets, Atlanta and Houston, due to reduced distribution and so. So year-to-date period 2, senior deal extension, which this is what I was referring to before, in Albuquerque, Atlanta, Denver, Portland, and some restaurants in the Inland Empire, LA, and West Florida. They're driving some year-over-year benefit. Again, they're including weekends this year that were not there last year in many of those markets. Club Veg continues to trail prior year, except during when we have accelerators. So as you can see in the chart, we tend to trail the prior year, and as soon as an accelerator jumps in, we're beating that. Print shifted down dates in period 2 to avoid the negative impact of Super Bowl. This was the intention of that, and I think probably Julie is going to get into more detail around that. Full pay maintained positive benefit to prior year in 2019 due to comp guest change after an underperforming period 11 and 12. And LSM Other was positive to prior year, driven by the 30% off service check, SMG coupons, and 20% off LSM brochure. Next slide. Okay. Looking at the period 2 guests per day forecast, we have a couple of holiday shifts. The State of the Union address was postponed from January into February, and Valentine's shifted days over to Thursday. Valentine's this year, actually, what we had included in this forecast was that we would have a miss of 5,000 guests that day, and I believe it came in at about 4,000 guests. So slightly better, but still, I think with many of our large markets, there was some pretty heavy rain that day, which I'm sure had impacted us a bit on that. Prior year events, there was a 2018 Winter Olympics during week 2, and the Kids Eat Free, President's Day, and 30% off are all happening at the same time as they were last year. One thing I want to note in this forecast is that you'll see that our expectation of where the 30% off is going to be is not quite as high as it had been previously. Part of that is that when we looked at last year when we ran this deal, it was the first time we had run that deal, I think, since summertime. So it was a pretty big deal. So at this point, we're kind of bracing for it not coming in quite as positive as it had in the prior year. So I would just say be cautious of that when your restaurants are planning for their guest count. That's all I've got, unless anyone has questions.
Doesn't look like it.
All right.
So Julie, for everybody on the phone, as Veronica mentioned, we had a really good print redemption month in January. So I'm happy to talk you through that. It's been a bleak 7 months for me, but we finally turned the corner. So just want to remind everybody on the 2019 strategy is to execute a holistic approach where digital and print can holistically work together. Continue to evaluate low redeeming print markets. And by mid-year, drop print in the lower performing markets and move underperforming markets to digital. So that's our overall strategy for 2019. So let's just talk about January. So January, we had an OSS drop December 31st with a 9.2 million, and the circulation was cut on low redeeming print markets. And I'll get a little bit more into that, why those markets were cut on a few slides back. So all markets went back to 20% versus 25%. They continued with the family deal, $32.99 and $34.99 in Bay, and 2 for $19 and $20.99 in Bay. We saw the January OSS redemption rate hit a 2.09, and we drove close to 12,000 more print guests. So what the grid here below shows you, and it's a great story, is that our circulation was 9.7 in January 2018, and in January 2019, we cut it by 500,000. So we cut circulation in low redeeming print markets, a 9.2, so we cut it by 500,000. We actually cut costs, and Sergio could talk more to how that performed in digital. We actually moved 85 grand over to digital. So that is the cost line. And then our cost per guest came in a lot lower. So it came in versus $302 in January 2018 to a $1.77. So we were able to make up $1.25 on the cost per guest line. So down to redemption, we're 62% redemption. And then close to 12,000 guest counts. So that is a really great story. As Veronica mentioned, we're up 0.7 in print guests. So the next slide just talks to January redemption rates by market. So I outlined here, because it's really hard to see, is we're going to continue to look at those under 2% redemption rate markets. So Tampa, Colorado, Fresno, Pacific Northwest, Albuquerque, Nevada, West Florida, Southeast Florida, and Atlanta and Houston, coming in at a 1.2. But the other markets like Tucson that are over 2%, Tucson, Orange County, San Diego, Inland Empire, Bay, and Los Angeles and Phoenix, those will continue, but we'll continue to keep our eye out on those lower redeeming print markets. So the next slide is a graph that shows, this is new, you guys haven't seen this before. So this takes the January print guests over prior year by market. And you'll see that the blue is 2019 and the gray is 2018. And the black are positive numbers and the red are negative numbers. So you'll see like Atlanta and Houston and pretty much LA is like down 12% and Orange County was flat and West Florida was flat. But so back in July, we started to put codes on our coupons to tell you where, if they're coming from a 3 mile radius, a 3 to 5 mile radius, or a 5 to 7. So what we use with that proximity data is we cut zones in all markets under 1.2 redemption rate. So your Atlanta and Houston, there weren't a lot of guests coming to your stores and within those proximities. So we cut a lot of zones that are under that 1.2. That's our threshold. So Atlanta and Houston, obviously, a majority of the zones were cut under 1.2. And as you've known, that we've tried various vehicles in your market. Most recently, Clipper magazine, and we've tried the wrap, the Red Plum wrap. We've tried a lot of different things. Although the redemption rates had not increased, your cost per guest has come down because those vehicles cost a lot less. So total circulation cut beginning in November was about 500,000. So again, we put extra spend towards digital media, in which Sergio will get to. So the next slide is our February OSS, which I don't have that great of numbers because, as Veronica mentioned, we were rolling over Super Bowl. So we dropped a week later than Super Bowl. And, you know, you can talk about it both ways. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, so if you drop before Super Bowl, you have the Patriots and the Rams in it, and no one's going to come because of the first weekend being Super Bowl. So we made a conscious effort to drop the week after Super Bowl. And, you know, I want to say thank goodness that we did. I mean, it's double-edged sword. Like I said, you can look at it both ways. You don't have the print in the marketplace, but you also had a lot of rain and the Super Bowl for the first weekend. So the distribution for that is 7.7 million. We cut the circulation and redeeming print stores, same as January. But we also tested the Clipper magazine in Atlanta and Southeast Florida, and it dropped a week before Super Bowl. So think about that, like that dropped the week before and we're not seeing a lot of redemption from it. It could be the vehicle, we don't know yet, but Tammy's gonna do an analysis and look at it once we come to a close. So all markets, same deals as January. And then the February redemption rate as of last week is a 1.67 to date. So let's move to March. So we moved up the print drop to 225. So we're year over year now. So for the rest of the year, we will be year over year. And we are matching March with 10 million. So it's 100% match to March 2018. So because the seasonality and it had great performance, we decided let's not use our circulation cut. So a lot of those markets that like Atlanta and Houston and Southwest Florida or Southeast Florida and West Florida, these guests have not seen a print piece in their market since November. So I could imagine that you're going to probably see a lot of print guests coming in. So we're matching the 2018 100%, and last March we had a redemption rate of a 1.95. So because March is so seasonality great for, the season is so great for us, we thought we can't go in the marketplace with anything different. And there's no change in offers from the January. So we're still doing the family deal and the 2-for deals, but they're not valid with the bonus cards. So the next slide shows you the print creative. So Hearty Healthy Endless has the chopped chicken salad, and the back has the coupons, and then Better Together and the Simply Irresistible. And then this is something new, Choose Your Food Adventure, which is like a really creative way to talk about the endless choices and the, making your own plate at Soup Plantation and Garden Fresh. All right, so I will now turn it over to Sergio.
Howdy, Sergio here speaking. Again, we're going to take you through digital results, Club Edge performance, and I'm going to close it out with guest relations through Merchant Centric. So the slide here looks a little bit different. I wanted to show you a historical performance for number of guests we've driven through our digital program from the beginning of time, and then do a little bit of a forecast of what we think February and March will look like. You also see the same thing for cost per guest on the right side. So I thought it'd be important for you guys to get just an understanding of how the program is performing. So for P1 specifically, January, we drove a little bit over 100,000 store visits that we can count at $1.76 per store visit, cost per store visit. In comparison, you know, December was a little bit of a rough month for us. Between, you know, holiday messaging and just that time of year, you know, this was the first time that our program actually saw declining guest counts and a real rise in store visit. However, when you look at January, you know, we've made significant adjustments to the strategy to make sure that we can get back on track. And we did see improvements in store visits and cost per store visits across the board. I know we talked a lot about what digital can take credit for and what we can't take credit for. Today we can tell you specifically how many of these guest counts are incremental or new guests versus old guests. The only thing that we can tell you is that the full paid category in January was up almost 6% or 30,000 guests, which I will say we can take some credit for that. But again, we can't give you an exact figure of those improvements. Based on what we've seen in January thus far and how the strategy is played out for February and March, we predict we can bring anywhere between 85,000 to 105,000 store visits for the remainder of for February and then for March again. And also just wanted to give you some perspective on what we were doing last year. So as you recall, this time last year was testing for us. We were trying to get into the game of digital. So in January last year, we only spent $40,000 in January. We couldn't really count guest counts, and we were only doing this in San Diego, Albuquerque, and Florida. After that in February, we upped our spend to $20,000, so we spent $60,000. We expanded our strategy to half the markets and only drove a very sad 6,000 store visits. In March again, we ramped up, expanded to all markets and actually drove less guest counts at a higher cost. So again, this quarter last year was all about testing, learning, trying to identify what will work. So yeah, that's where we were. And the next slide here shows you a good example of where we were last year to where we are this year. On the left side, you see the channels that we were on. So we were doing some Google search, we were doing some Google display and Facebook. On average, spending about $60,000 a month, and about 6,000 store visits. This year, we've expanded our media mix to include Instagram, Gmail, and Yelp. And now we've tripled our budget, so we're spending on average $180,000 a month, and on average driving about 103,000 guest counts. And to Julie's point, what we've done here is try to take some of those underperforming print markets and start investing a little bit more heavily on those. I can give you a good example in Phoenix, where last year in Q4, Phoenix and Tucson, we started investing almost 30% more dollars in a more robust strategy in Phoenix. And what we've seen slowly but surely, and I'm sure Natalie can attest to this, that full paid category and overall sales for Phoenix have improved significantly to where she was. I can tell you that we've taken that same approach for Phoenix and rolled it out to, in this quarter, markets like Houston, Atlanta, Southeast Florida, Southwest Florida, to try to replicate that same success. So we're working slowly but surely to chip away at some of these markets to be able to make up those counts on the digital side. Next is Club Bench.
You're not driving.
Oh, that's right. I thought I was driving the train. I was like, oh, I'm behind. So a similar slide that you've seen, just looks a little bit different for you guys, but this is our monthly subscriber growth. We're on our 13th consecutive month of earning positive subscribers. Actually, our biggest growth month since April of 2018. This is coming off our Text Your Join campaign we did last year. So again, we made significant improvements in January to drive more subscribers than we've had since April of last year. Next is a market-by-market breakdown of your subscribers. So I know you guys have asked a lot to understand how your markets stack up. I also have a restaurant-by-restaurant breakdown of this. If you guys find that to be helpful, happy to share that with you. But this is where we are as of January 31st. So what you see is where you started January 1st, which is that beginning subscriber column. The next two columns are the number of subscribers, new subscribers driven, and then the number of subscribers that left that database, which leads you to your ending subscribers, which is where you end at the month. There's some good highlights here overall across the board, positive growth for every single market for P1. The highest or the best improvements were LA, San Diego, the Bay Area, Inland Empire, and Orange County. I mean, these are some really exciting numbers. If you look at your 6-month growth, those numbers in green, those 3%, 4% are big wins. So I just thought it was important to share this from a market by market standpoint to understand where the database lives today. Next, this is, again, a bit of a different slide for you guys to look at open rate, but this is broken down by those different regions in Club Veg. So you see Bay Area, main database, loyal database, Soup Plantation main database. But here across the board, you see really significant numbers from an open rate standpoint. The Bay Area at almost 30% open rate alongside Soup Plantation and Sweet Tomatoes. 29.25%. Again, we're still tracking better open rates on the benchmark for the QSR category, which is 16.26%. So across the board, we have a database that's very active. The only issue that we continue to see is they're not transacting with us as often, unless we give them a very aggressive discount. But again, you have a database that's still engaged. We just need to get them to show up to the restaurant. Next, you see that same breakdown, but by market, again, to give you an understanding of how you're performing and how you're stacking up against the rest of the markets. And again, big news here, if you look at our open rate and change from last month to this month, everybody across the board positive growth. Now, this is a bit inflated because coming off the holidays, it's a very heavy season for emails, all kinds of holiday deals, Black Friday deals. So people naturally in Q4, specifically December, don't open email as often. So you see, improvements across the board, but still not a little bit inflated because of the December to January transition. But again, here you're able to see the number of total emails that were sent, our deliverability rates, and then again, what's your overall open rate by market. Next, this is guests by market versus previous year. So this is very similar to the slide you saw with Julie. Market by market comparison, the blue is last year, the orange is this year, and to Veronica's point earlier, we definitely trailed in Club Veg and P1 and looking to do the same in P2. But there's some markets here like Houston, Inland Empire, LA, Orange County, and San Diego that are actually performing much better than they did last year. Again, only 1/3 of all our markets showed positive gains versus last year. So we've got a little bit of work to do in the Florida area specifically to be able to make up some guest counts there. Again, P1 overall, our guest counts, we had a 40,000 guest count miss in January. Most of that came out of Strat C, which is where people publish these coupons online. The good news for us is we've now have a plan and strategy in place to get more visibility on some of these online sites to try to make up some ground for the rest of February and into March. But again, thought it was helpful to show this market by market comparison. Know that we can also give you the slide by restaurant if you find that helpful. Next, in the next two slides, what you'll see is discount percentage by market and PPA. And I just thought it was important to talk through these two because we've seen a significant increase in our PPA and the Club Veg side across all these markets, and also a decrease in discount across all these markets. We've had the lowest discount percentage in the last 37 periods now. So this is, again, due to the price increase we took last year. We removed the 25 and 20% offers that were on in Q4. For a period of time, we removed the family offer. We've made some changes to bring some of these folks back. But again, you see that across the board, our discount percentage is up about 10%. And some of these markets are a lot higher than others, but again, thought it was important to share this. I know oftentimes you guys sort of email and ask questions on where we are with PPA and discount percentages. Again, thought this was an important slide to show. And last is PPA, so this is the one that looks more dramatic. Again, our PPA has gone up significantly, and just for some perspective, if you look at this actual number, you know, Albuquerque, for example, was about a 9, call it 60 and change. Now it's about a 1030 PPA. So, you know, this goes, you know, with the strategy of trying to reduce discount and improve profitability. So what we're trying to do here now is identify what that ideal PPA and discount percentage is by market to ensure that we can continue to drive the right number of guest counts without affecting PPA and profitability as much. Some of the changes that you'll see come in March is the reintroduction of a percentage off offer. We think that, you know, PPA and discount percentage has gone up a little bit too aggressively. So introducing a lower tier percentage off offer will allow us to improve some of the performance of Club Med that we've seen. So you'll be able to see that, again, introduction of a percentage off offer in the next little bit. All right. So moving over to guest relations. So want to give you an overview of Merchant Centric and what we did for the year. Overall, our average star rating landed at a 4.2, which is a big win. Overall, our total reviews were a little bit over 100,000, and the two biggest things to call out here is overall positivity for all this reviews, 81% of them being positive, 19% of them being negative. And again, on average, we're seeing about 23 reviews per location. But I think it's important to when we talk about Merchant Centric, and I've shared this with you guys either one-on-one or as a whole, Merchant Centric, unlike SMG or mystery shops, is just a very different channel, right? Guests are not prompted to give feedback here. This is sort of an organic way of a guest of sharing their thoughts and opinions on their visit and the brand. And we've shared a couple of examples where you'll see a guest leaving a 4 or 5 star review, but when you actually read the comments, they'll say, my visit was great, but the salad bar was dirty, or the restroom was dirty, or nobody cleaned my table, or whatever that complaint might be. So it's a little bit skewed, and it's a little bit misleading when you say, well, we've got a 4.2 average star rating, 81% of our actual reviews are positive. But again, when you actually read the comments and actually dig through the data, you see that there are some significant issues across the board. The 5 top issues that we've identified for the year on the Merchant Centric side, number 1 is being cleanliness. You see this across, I think, every channel, not only social, but SMG. And mystery shops, again, this is around dishware, silverware, bars, tables, restrooms. This one's no surprise. Loyalty and referral was one that jumped out from last year. These are guys saying that either they won't be back, or their issue wasn't really resolved, or overall it was a bad experience and they wouldn't recommend it to somebody else. We've seen a slight increase of this kind of review this year. Demeanors, number 3, again, issue resolution. There's specific call outs to employees having either, you know, they're not in good spirit, they don't have the right energy, or they're sometimes rude, or when a guest asks for some sort of help or issue resolution, they just don't get that from an employee, and if they do, they get it in a not so pleasant manner. So I would say the 2 that we've seen increase over the last year has been this loyalty and referral and this demeanor piece. And then the last 2 have to do with menu and food, talking about the freshness of the food. One specific call out is the dressing and tossed salads, either too overdressed or not dressed enough. drive baked goods. This is something that, again, they continue to call out. And then the selection and availability of products. So biggest call outs are, whatever soup's not available, or there's not enough focaccia available for me right now, or whatever that baked goods is. So again, for me, I think the two that are particularly worrisome is the loyalty and referral. We know word of mouth is extremely important in this business. We know that when people are trying to make a food decision, they go on Yelp, they'll go on a Google site and read some of these reviews. So, though we do have a strong 4.2 average star rating, looking to work towards these issues to resolve them, I think it's important specifically on review sites. And then last slide for me is, again, looking at our online reputation trends. So again, we're seeing almost month-over-month improvements on this. This is your average star rating across all platforms. This is the aggregated version of it. Again, this tells a really good story. If you were just looking at the numerical data, you'd say, yeah, I mean, we're killing it. But again, you read those comments in the comment section, and they're not as pretty. The 5 trends I've just talked about. So some work to do here, but always happy to help from a guest relations standpoint to try to resolve as many complaints as we can on this side. Megan does a terrific job of handling these, so we're trying our best here to try to solve these complaints as they come and try to be a good voice for the brand. But this is what we're seeing on the merchant-centric side.
Great.
All right, thank you, Sergio. So I'm just going to go through some of our SMG results, 2017 versus 2018, and I know we have moved into mystery shops for 2019, but I think it's still important to look back and reflect how we did last year, because SMG was the main tool that we used, or one of the tools we used for guest satisfaction, and then we still do have that SMG survey out there that guests are continuing to fill out. We still receive probably 25 responses a month per location. So it's just another tool to really gauge how we're doing overall as a company. So SMG, as you know, is more of our guests that come in day to day. They're pretty loyal guests, and they're just giving our feedback willingly. So looking at 2017 versus 2018, all of our scores unfortunately dropped in every category. And if there's a asterisk by the number on the right, that means it was statistically significant difference. So I think it's just important to really still look at these numbers and look and see how our guests are feeling about their experience. And as you remember, our Q1 priorities are specifically around service and caring nature of staff. Make sure we're saying hello, goodbye, thanking them, having a presence with the manager in the building. So I just wanted to show you this slide that our scores have slightly slipped. So it's really time to maybe refocus on all of these areas. And then although the scores slipped, we did have some markets that improved. We actually had quite a few markets improve in different areas, but these markets improved significantly. So it's Albuquerque and Inland Empire in all these areas. So great job to them, really working on getting their scores up. So I just really wanted to spotlight them and let them know that they're doing a great job in all of these categories. All right, and then mystery shops. So mystery shops are, as you know, shoppers are a little more prompted to come in. They don't have to pay for their meal. They're kind of there for a purpose, unlike someone who's just going there for pleasure and dining, and then they give us their feedback. So they're kind of going through their experience more with like a fine-tooth comb, looking at everything. So period 1 results, we're at an 88.87%, which is awesome. And this is the first period where every location received 2 mystery shops. So, which is great, and this is now included in your scorecard. So the areas we can improve remain the same as they were in period 12. However, we are making some major improvements, especially in those Q1 priorities that I mentioned. So we improved 2% on greeting the guest, having a manager presence, and then offering a goodbye. We improved actually 5% in the manager and the goodbye, which is great. And then we went down a little bit in the removal of the tray. So these areas still are our main focus. We still have some work to do, but it's good to know that we are improving them a little bit, so that's great news. And then I wanted to call out the restaurants that scored 100% on both their evaluations in period 1, which seems pretty remarkable to get 100%. So Boynton Beach, Clackamas, and Lake Buena Vista got 100% on both their evaluations, so awesome job to them. And then we had several other locations that got 100% at one time. So that was Pleasant Hill, West Palm Beach, Orlando 1, Altamont Springs, Houston 1, Scottsdale, Perimeter, Westminster, Woodlands, Brentwood, Las Vegas, Carlsbad, and Temecula. And then we're also going to be doing a learning lab on mystery shops that'll be coming up next month on March 12th. So I know we've received questions on what questions are weighted, what are we supposed to do? For example, the coupons has come up. Is the cashier supposed to prompt the guest to present a coupon, or should they not ask for a coupon? So we'll cover all of that in that mystery shop. And if there's anything else that your stores have questions on, or maybe you're confused on, if you could just bring that to our attention, and we'll make sure to cover it during the mystery shop, because we just want this to be very clear for everyone, and it is included in your scorecard. So it's important that we're all on the same page.
Hey, Megan, before you move on to LSM, is that what's on the next slide?
Yes.
I just wanted to address, because, you know, it can be confusing. We have all these different channels that kind of aggregate all of the customer reviews and, you know, our overall satisfaction. And so, you know, what our intention really today was to explain the differences between merchant-centric, SMG, and mystery shops. So if that didn't come across very clear, let me just kind of give you a quick summary. So merchant-centric are all of the review sites that our customers can go onto organically and give one overall review on us. And as Sergio mentioned, even though our overall review scores are doing very well, there is still some opportunity when you really break down the comments. But again, these are customer reviews and just the one score. SMG focuses on industry standards and overall satisfaction. So this is, again, an organic way to pull customers that are coming into our restaurant and to give them an incentive to answer those survey questions. And then mystery shops, that's different from those other channels, because we're actually setting the questions based on our sequence of service and what our expectations are from a guest and customer service standpoint in the restaurant. So there are 3 very different channels reporting 3 very different things, but I think from what you guys have seen and heard from us today is that you know, while our scores are doing very well, but there's still some opportunities, and I know that you guys continue to work on that, and we continue to see your progress and your efforts against that in our scores, and we appreciate that. So hopefully that just kind of clears up any confusion, if there was any, around why 3 different channels and why 3 different ways to look at all of the different customer reviews. And trust me, we also get phone calls, and we get Facebook and social media comments, and we get, you know, direct emails straight through our social media channels that aren't even addressed here. So, you know, guest relations, and Megan leads this for our team and does a fantastic job. But yeah, we're definitely, you know, have our ear to the ground and are listening to what our customers are saying, and appreciate your guys' efforts, and we recognize those efforts.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. So I just wanted to move into LSM and fundraisers. I know we talked about this last month, but I think it's important to still bring up, especially if you have some stores with some softer sales. This is a great way to get some new guests in the building and then keep them coming back. And just as a reminder, the goal of fundraising is for every organization to raise money by encouraging them to dine with us. This will, in return, increase guest count, sales, and first-time guests. And we know that fundraisers are a very powerful reputation-building tool with new guests. So, and then we give money back to the community. So it's really a win-win for us and for the organization. So in the coming weeks, we're going to include a hand raiser regarding fundraisers that really focuses just solely on different ways you can get the word out, how you can have organizations book more fundraisers with you. So we just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming. And so if your restaurants are looking for a way, maybe just to do more LSM, the fundraisers is a great way to start. So this will be very helpful to them. And then as a reminder, the fundraiser flyer has been updated. You may have seen some come into your stores. We've updated the organization flyer that they bring in the day of, and then our handout that you can take out as you do your LSM efforts has also been updated, and we have lifted the drink requirement. So I have had a few questions on that. So just as a reminder, we no longer require them to purchase a beverage. They still have to pay full price, but they don't have to get that beverage. So just wanted to give an update on fundraisers. And then back to Corey.
All right, thank you, Megan. Yeah, I was actually in the restaurant, in one of our restaurants yesterday, and I saw that the fundraiser flyer was posted on those community boards. I know not all locations have those, but I thought that was really smart of that location to put that on that community board, because a lot of people don't even know that we have fundraisers. So yeah, wherever we can post and get the word out on those, I think it's a great program, and one that our competitors do also. So it's great that we can compete with that. So as I mentioned at the top of the call, unfortunately last month we had some issues when it got to this portion of kind of explaining what our Q1 marketing plan, or our 2019 marketing plan looked like. So I just wanted to keep the focus for this call on just specifically what we're doing for healthy eating, which is our Q1 strategy. So as we had talked about, you know, we love the idea of a detox, this play on words with a detox, and after, you know, Q4 and the holidays, really taking a time out after, you know, indulging over the holidays and, you know, finding that balance, whether that is resolution season, you know, dietary reasons, just finding balance for yourself and taking care of yourself, or spending more time with family, whatever balance looks like to you. Some of the things that have come to life with that have been the launch of our sweepstakes, where we are doing a user-generated contest on #MyBalanceLife and asking and encouraging our guests to post what balance looks like to them. Featuring our healthy food cues, bringing Ramon and Rachel to the forefront. So we love this idea because this isn't something that our competitors are doing, talking about the faces behind the food. So just focusing on Q1, Megan, if we go to the next slide. Some of these things you've already seen brought to life. So in our Club Veg emails, we're messaging around balance, protein-packed ingredients, fueling a better lifestyle. So you can see that email example on the left that talks about the balance of, you know, a healthier salad with a more indulgent pasta and finding that just right balance. In the middle, designed to fuel healthy living, so focusing on the more healthy benefits of our menu. As I mentioned, the sweepstakes, so #MyBalanceLife for a chance to win free soup and salad for a year. And then we're back to promoting our 700-calorie recipe cards. So you guys already have 6 in restaurant right now, and we are adding 3 new ones. So those will be in a pack out coming to you next week. We would just ask that you just keep them all in rotation. They're all available on our website, and our guests can download and print them out directly from our website. So it's just great to have some additional flavor profiles for them to select from this year. And then promoting our online nutritional guide, which is powered by Healthy Dining, which we launched last year. We did a learning lab on this last week. Rachel actually went through a tutorial on how to use the online nutritional guide. We think that, you know, we know that we get kind of inundated a lot with our guests wanting to know what's in their food, what's in the, you know, ingredients of specific items, if things are vegan or vegetarian, or what's gluten-friendly in our restaurant. And we realize that this can be intimidating. And if we're getting inundated with guest comments, we can only imagine how you guys feel about that also. But we have the answers right in our back pocket with this online nutritional guide. So whether that's something that you want to use to help assist our guests in their questions, or simply direct our guests to that website to find the answers that they're looking for. So the learning lab I thought was really great. It was recorded, and Christina sent out a link. If you guys haven't already watched it, I would encourage you to just give yourself a refresher course just so that you are familiar with how to use that tool. So these are just some things that have already been brought to life in Q1 so far, but coming up, we've created these benefit icons to feature on all of our menu signs. So these icons speak to the benefits of our food and a visual cue. So as guests are just moving throughout the restaurant, they'll be able to see, oh, the Santa Fe black bean chili is packed with, digestion supporting, plant-based protein, antioxidants, and just the visual cues of the wellness in the ingredients that are used in all of our dishes. So we'll be bringing these icons to life in our stand-up banners. So you guys already have the frame structure of that banner from when we were promoting gift cards in Q4. So we want to bring those back up to the front of the restaurant, put this health benefit icon banner, which is this is the exact example of it right here. So put that right inside your front door. And we'll also be delivering all new menu signs that look just like this. They've all been redesigned. They'll include the new March menu items. We also made have put ingredient descriptions on. I think we're having an issue with the screen share, Megan. Okay, I think it's coming back. Sorry about that, guys. So we're really excited about these menu icons, like I said, through the banner right inside the door when they walk in, through the menu signs that they'll see with the ingredients, with all the visual cues, and then when they sit down at their table, they'll have a table tent that kind of reinforces all of this. So all of this collateral, including the 3 new recipe cards, will be delivered next on the 25th, whatever day that is.
Yes.
Monday, yeah. So as you transition over to your March menu, I would just encourage you at that time, whatever that date is for you, to go ahead and put all of this collateral up. And of course, let us know if you're missing anything or need anything else. And then all of this will be supported through our website and social media. And we'll be communicating this through Club Veg as well. So really excited to see all of this come to life. As Veronica mentioned at the top of the meeting, we have, we're lapping over some things from prior years. So our Kids Eat Free for President's Day weekend just ended, and our 30% off just kicked off this morning, unfortunately, with an error that went out in the lack of communication on the stacking of bonus cards, which we understand and acknowledge causes problems when, the cashiers have to, explain to the customer that we aren't allowing the stacking of bonus cards. So it's unfortunate, and our apologies on that oversight and error. The good news is that we do have another email going out this Friday to sort of queue up for the busy weekend. And then after the weekend, we'll have another last chance. So we've got a couple other emails planned for the 30% off that will, of course, be corrected to make sure that the stacking of the $10 bonus card is very clear, that we don't accept that as a form of payment when they're using the 30% off. Again, our apologies for the issues and the problems that this is going to cause. Sergio has already implemented a fix for that, if you want to.
Sure. So again, to extend on Corey's thing, big apologies for that oversight. We identified it in the morning, and we can fix the emails that have not been opened yet. So if there's a guest who's received the email but hasn't opened it, we can make the creative update so when they do open it, they'll see the $10 bonus card call out and disclaimer. So that has been underway to make sure that we can course correct for, again, those folks who haven't opened that email. And to Corey's point, on Friday and then again next week when we resend these emails and talk about the 30%, that issue will also be resolved. So again, apologies for today and the next couple of days where this might cause some issues with guests who have already opened emails. But again, course corrected for folks who have not opened, and then for the Friday and the Tuesday email that will be out next week. Yeah, and so also note that these coupons are configured to be multi-use, so guests can visit a restaurant multiple times through this promotion if they'd like to and use this 30% off. Again, we've done a combination of these multi-use coupons really over the last 6 to 8 months. We've done a multi-use versus a single use. So again, this 30% off is a multi-use. The guests will be able to come back through the duration of the promo and use this 30% off.
All right, thanks for the extra clarity on that, Sergio. You guys, do you have any questions about anything that we presented today or specifically around the 30% off?
Hi, this is Natalia. I don't have a question, but our banner was received already at 116. I just wanted to let you know it looks great.
Oh, awesome. Great. Yeah. And then, you know, to your leisure to put that up once you guys are transitioning over to the March menu items next week.
Awesome. Thank you. I love this.
Great. Thanks.
I don't see any questions on my end.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and send out, since I'm not sure if everybody's on the call, but we'll go ahead and send out a communication around the 30% off and kind of what we've communicated to you guys in our plan. Then going forward, we'll get that sent out to all of the DOs and RVPs to share with the field momentarily. We appreciate you guys getting on the call with us and for the last minute change in time. And for accommodating all of us, and thank you so much. Of course, we're all here if you need anything or want to reach out one-on-one to myself, Julie, Sergio, or Megan, or Veronica. We're happy to hear from you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.